What's up, everybody? We are here doing a collaboration with Johnny from 13 Stripes Construction. Really excited to have him on. We've been chatting back and forth on social media and everything, and I've been seeing his journey as he's started this 13 Stripes construction business. And I love how he's really trying to lead and show the example of him as he builds out this business. And so it's exciting to get him on the podcast. He's a fellow dadpreneur as well. So Johnny, welcome to the show, man.
Hey man, no, definitely not dadpreneur that I know of.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I saw married and then I added the dad in there. So my bad. You are not a dadpreneur. You're just a married entrepreneur.
But yeah, no, so my name's Johnny Buck. I own 13 Stripes Construction and I own Rogue Combat Club, which is an MMA gym out of Asheville, North Carolina. Started that in 2013, hit the top 1%. So around for about 3-4 years, working full time. And in 2017, I went full in on the gym. By 2021, we hit the top 1% of the industry, which is not that hard as far as financial go. But we built systems, we built processes, we built a team, we built culture. We have probably half dozen guys with our logo tattooed on them. We have coaches who own other gyms now with my logo tattooed on them. So I guess I own that gym too. That works that way, maybe. But yeah, we did that. And then I work with Win Rate Consulting as a coach and a client. And I was talking to Mike and he goes, man, your skill set is way too high for what you're making. So let's go ahead and put you in some other industry. My dad was a GC. I worked with him. So I went back into the GC world and launched my first project in September. My final inspection was the 27th. It got canceled because Helene hit. So we've been wide open with that. I've drank through the fire hose for 7 months. A lot learned, fast tracking, but like what allowed me to be as successful as I am. And I don't have the final numbers right now, but we're probably close to 500,000 sold since January, which is good, obviously, first year in the business. But I took the systems from the gym and applied them to the GC world. You know, the reason that I really picked this, besides knowing that my dad was a GC, I love the smell of sawdust and all that stuff, was it took me 4 GCs to get somebody to show up to the job to build my gym a couple of years ago. So that was, I'm like, you know what? I'll just do this. Like, I know for a fact we sell memberships to people because they don't get phone calls from other gyms. I was like, I bet I can do the same thing in construction and there's way better money. Appears to be the case.
I hear so many stories about the construction side or really just home services in general. And the fact that it's literally, you don't answer the phone, you don't get the business. Actually, we had a guy do some concrete work for us. And I had another person that I know, a manager I worked with, that he was wanting to get some concrete work done at his house. And I was like, well, hey, I got this guy. But of course, he wanted to kind of do his due diligence, get a couple other bids. He said that was the only person that ever called him back. And this was a guy ready to do the job. He was ready to hand somebody money. And of course, that's not every situation when people call, but this was somebody ready to spend money. And because everybody else didn't answer, the one company got the work. And they do great work for sure. But still, that's all it takes, especially in that home services construction industry. A lot of the times is literally answering the phone. And unfortunately, people don't do that. And there's many rhymes or reasons. I'm sure one, they're just so busy, but then two, they just probably don't like the phones or don't want to talk on the phone, which makes no sense. So you're just throwing money away. But it's amazing to me that literally that simple thing of just picking up the phone can make your business grow. And then obviously for you, like Helene, I'm sure has helped out tremendously to help your business just explode. A total other facet that you can talk about within life and in business, that one person's storm, no pun intended, is another person's like just cash cow, if you will. They can make so much in the same situation or similar situation, the same environment, while the other person is devastated by it. And so it's just, you've got to look at it and try and find the way to make the positive happen of it.
Yeah. So it's being a Win Rate client, we do our championship day where basically we read this thing every morning. And one of the reminders for me is nothing is good or bad. Yes, Helene sucked. I hate it with a passion. I can go on a whole just plethora of reasons it sucks. Not just the actual physical devastation, but everything involving insurance and the government. It's just been really hard to navigate, but it's nothing is good or bad. It just is. And it's been really beneficial for me to have that kind of attitude. Dude, let's say, entrepreneurship is just a nut kick every morning. And like I said, I had a really good day the other day. Checks came in, all the jobs went smooth. The weather was good. Like, it was great. I was like, I know tomorrow's going to be a rough one. But, a lot of it is, it's just that kind of philosophy. And then on the side of like, why people don't answer their phone. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Have you read the E-Myth? E-Myth for Business? Yeah, I think it's the dumbest book ever. But I understand why people like it. That's naturally ingrained in my head. So a lot of things you got to read this book. I'm like, that's the worst book I've ever read in my entire life. Why? Because that's just how you function as a human. I was very fortunate to be, raised by two entrepreneurs or business owners, honestly. I do believe there's a difference. They own their business versus the business owning them and that side. But it's just you answer your phone. Like you have to do the basics of business. So I really didn't understand. I didn't really value the E-Myth that much. But I think that's the main reason I see issues with people going from construction specific or home service is they don't want to take their tool belt off. They either love it or they don't have the systems and processes put together to onboard the right people. It's a lack of clear culture, communication, and leadership. I think that's one of the biggest issues. I don't believe in natural born leaders, but I've positioned myself in leadership roles since Little League football. And it's something I focus on a lot. So I think that's the biggest reason is they're so swamped in the day-to-day. To use the operator, they don't get to spend much time in the owner's seat. And I see it a lot and it sucks, but I was very adamant about not putting the tool belt on for this construction.
Yeah, and I mean, I actually like the E-Myth book, but my brain also kind of works that way, and it sounds like yours is like on overdrive in that direction. So I could see where it's not that beneficial for you, but a lot of people, they don't think about that. They can't be systematized and compartmentalize all these things. And I see this on the virtual assistant side of the world where people, they feel like they can't delegate anything out. And for sure, they don't want to delegate something to somebody all the way across the world because they're afraid it's not going to get done, or all of a sudden it's going to take an extra 10 hours. But it's like, is it really taking an extra 10 hours or is it actually being done in the amount of time that it actually needs to take to do that thing right? And I see this a lot as well with business owners that they're afraid to delegate. Ego gets in the way. They think that they're just the best thing since sliced bread, whatever it is. And that's what actually holds them back and actually makes it, like you said, they are owned by their business versus they own their business and run their business. And yeah, taking that tool belt off is such an important thing, and allowing somebody else to take over in some shape or form. And one of the things, even for myself specifically, I think ego gets in the way a lot of times. We feel like we need to be the one to do it. We need to put our stamp of approval on that. We need to be the one that hit that nail in to say we did that job. And it doesn't feel like a we if we simply sit in the CEO position or we sit in a C-suite position and tell people or get people to do different tasks, and we never actually go do that. And it is a very weird concept when you're first starting out doing that, especially if you've never been that leader. And like you said, it sounds like you have more of those leadership tendencies than a lot of people, but a lot of people tend to just be followers. And that's the school systems and everything that have taught us to be followers. And so when you have to start leading, it's a really weird thing that you basically get people to try and think for themselves and give them tasks to do, and you just check up on those tasks. And it really feels like you're being lazy, but really that's not being lazy, that's leadership. You're trying to get the company to go in a direction, you're leading them in a direction, and you have to get the soldiers to go do that work.
This is not my first consulting company I worked with. I worked with Combat Business Success. It started out with Alan Belcher, and then UFC fighter, retired, bare knuckle heavyweight champ, good friend, whoops my ass when I grapple. Just unbelievable dude, man. And he got way better beard than I do too right now. So him, Amy Majors, and then Paul Holme. I think you may know Paul. I'm not sure, but
that name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he came through Apex, like OG Apex and stuff. He's been around a lot, big in the VA services. But the thing with them is we talk about like when it comes to an entrepreneur life. So you're a solopreneur, you own a job. So like forget who it was, talk about different levels of business or life or finance, whatever. So you're an employee, so you work for somebody else. That means you are at their mercy. And so safe until they get laid off or they move their shit overseas or whatever. So I'm like, I've only had one job that wasn't for family or friends. It lasted 5.5 months. I'm like, this is enough of this shit. So the semi-corporate, I worked at the billboard state, actually. I was a highly overpaid busboy. And then, so you're employee, and then you're self-employed or sole entrepreneur, meaning you own your job, and that's where a lot of people spend a lot of time. The money can be really good there. right? It can be. So then there's, self-employed, then there's entrepreneur, which is where you are. And I think the area between solopreneur and entrepreneur has like a million little steps, but like going from solopreneur to entrepreneur, self-employed to business owner is a big problem. And, so that's something that I picked up from those guys. And then the other thing is looking at your tasks on the job. I have a VA right now. I've had VAs for the past few years in different aspects. They're phenomenal. There are low-end VAs, there are high-end VAs, there are EAs, executive assistants, there's everything in between. So I'm not going to upload these videos. I'm not going to post them on social media. I don't care that much. He goes, well, just get a VA to do it. And that was the first process of the VA. And that expanded. But like, I think going from solopreneur to entrepreneur is a really tough thing for a lot of people because they do think they can do it best, and they probably can. But answering the phone's a $10. I'm gonna use round numbers. Back when I was a kid, and $10 mattered. So there's $10 an hour jobs, there's $100 an hour jobs, there's $1,000 an hour jobs, and there's $10,000 an hour. And $10 an hour jobs, answering the phone, sweeping the floors, cleaning toilets, coaching classes, doing basic shit. $100 an hour job is people managing 5 or 6 of those people. So that, so a management status. $1,000 an hour job is slightly above that. So it's like your GM type status, like, hey, taking some data from the tens and the hundreds, I'm looking at it, I'm making decisions at the 10,000 or the 1,000 foot level. Like, hey, we're here. And then the $10,000 an hour jobs, that's CEO, that's C-suite. Like that, only you can do that. Like if you're an entrepreneur, if you are legitimately self-employed, anytime you're doing a $10 an hour job, answering phones, scanning PDF like that, you're losing $9,000 an hour, right? So I think hiring a VA I'm way lean towards VA over AI. I think they're both very useful. I have my VAs use AI, so it's super compounded. But I think being able to have your understand that, like, if you're in the job or in the company, you can't work on the company. And I think that fear is what keeps so many people from hiring. And whether it's another contractor, another laborer, another whatever, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make is they spend way too much time and with their tool belt on whatever that tool belt is.
Yeah, for sure. And the other side of that too is that you can kind of manipulate your profits, and it's a lot easier. I mean, it's just easier when you don't have a team, because now you can say, I sold a job for $10,000. It doesn't really matter what I paid myself, quote unquote, because the material was only $1,000. So I made $9,000. But did you really, based on the amount of time that you spent, what else did you miss out on? And nobody thinks about that second part. What did you miss out on? What other opportunities could you have had? Not to mention, okay, so you sold the job. Now you did the job. Now, how much longer till you get that next job? You couldn't go back and start selling another job. And that pipeline always has to be filling in. You have to constantly be bringing stuff in so that at the bottom you can have another closed job go through.
So I have my MMA gym, and at the peak we had 13 employees on payroll, all W2. Made some mistakes with that, of course, but we're running right now super lean. We have 6 people on payroll. My wife and I are not getting paid currently. The construction company's doing it. We're rebuilding. I had to lay off my entire team during Helene. I ran through $40,000 of personal cash just between buying generators, donations, and just keeping a gym alive, giving our guys money and stuff like that to make sure we made it, So I could only cut so many expenses, and payroll's the only one I could cut. So I cut them all. And some moved, I didn't cut 13, but that was our peak. But one of the things that when I was working with my other coaches was, if I can close at, let's just say 100% to make the math really easy, and I can close 10 people a week, I can close 40 a month. Pretty simple, right? If I bring on 2 people who close at 50%, right? And they close 50% and they get the same number of leads, that's fine. We're only going to close 5. I'm sorry, we're still going to close 10. So I'm no longer selling. So we have 20 leads, so 10 leads per person, half that, we're good. So we're still closing 10. And I'm able to do something else. But what happens is, realistically, I train my guys because I can spend time on looking at the data. Where are they making up? What objections are they messing on? What are we doing here? We do a sales train. Now I've got 2 guys closing 75%. That's 15 people.
Yeah.
So what do we do now? Take that money, the extra profit, because they're not getting CEO pay. They're getting sales and commission. And then we just keep falling in. Then we take that extra capital, we put it into ads, and we scale. And I think that was the most realistic thing that I've seen. And my guys closed in the gym world, MMA gym, we use 50% as like the basis. Like, you suck if you close less than half. I've given them a little more leeway after Helene because of financial issues, but no, we closed an average. Last week we closed, oh God, let's see, 13 attempts. We closed like 10 or 13, 9 or 13, so, and one of them, so we get B backs, like, oh, I'll be back. No, they actually are. So again, apparently our product is good. So yeah, but like having a team has allowed me to scale. Like, I thought $10,000 a month was insane in the gym world. If I don't make that a week, I don't make my nut, so that's how you scale. But I agree wholeheartedly, man. I think there's a lot of ways to do it.
Oh man, it's funny you mentioned that, like, because with my business, I've got 4 virtual assistants on my team currently, and I thought getting to 6 figures was gonna be like, oh man, this is gonna be phenomenal, and this, it's gonna like change my life, all this stuff, and then realized, wow, there's really not a lot of money at 6 figures. I mean, it's a great like milestone for sure to go from 5 to 6, which funny, nobody ever says anything about 5 figures, but that is something when you're first getting started to get the 5-figure year, if you will. But once you get to that 6-figure, but it's really still nothing. And that payroll is such a huge thing that you have to work on. But I also kind of had that same thing happen with my social media team. So I got a social media manager and 2 video editors actually helping me out on the team. And they've actually started coming up with strategy. So I've given like a high level, here's who we're talking to, here's where we're trying to go, here's our objective. And I give inputs here and there, but they've started working collectively together. And now I've got some scripts to work through. They gave me some ideas to make our content more engaging, and I didn't have to keep thinking about that. And that's the awesome thing. Yes, of course, I'm still filming it. This is my personal brand, so it's got to be me. But now all I have to do is film it. They give me the idea, I film it, I give it back to them to then edit the content and post it, create the captions and post it and everything. Of course, I'm going through and reviewing a little bit and everything, but even then my reviewing is being less and less and less because they're starting to understand what needs to be done. And that's, again, the power of you delegating those tasks and getting that team on board, is that you don't have to be doing that. I think about the big companies out there here locally. You've got BMW, Michelin, GE, all these massive companies, and the CEO is nowhere even close to being in the day-to-day work. And yet you, as the CEO of your business, when you've got 1, 2, 3 people on the team, yes, you're going to be a lot closer than those CEOs, but still a lot of business owners feel like they have to be in that driver's seat when you don't, or I should say in the motor compartment working on that engine. No, you get to be in the driver's seat. You get to dictate where we're going. Somebody else is making sure that engine's running properly, that it's got the fuel available to get you from A to B, all of those things, the nuts and bolts, while you just put the direction out there. It's something that so many don't understand. And as you get into it more and more, you start to see that. And you mentioned something about with win rate. I want to go back on this. You mentioned something with win rate, how I think you said it was Claudio, but somebody said that, with the gym business, that you weren't getting paid enough for the level of expertise that you had. Talk to me about that. That's something interesting. I mean, I get it in a sense that the gym business, I would say, has a lot less moving parts than a construction business. But talk to us about that and why that was kind of the case and how.
Yeah. So the gym has way more moving parts than the construction company.
I'm ignorant to both. So.
Yeah. So they're tiny, right? So right before this call, my wife goes, "You order Icon meals?" I'm like, no one told me to. Yeah, I did. I'm like, no, you didn't. You didn't tell me. It is what it is. CEO job, I'm right, you're wrong. At home, I'm in trouble. That's why I'm in my office. But no, man. So it's there are a lot more small moving parts for a gym. Like, you gotta think, you could probably make 8 figures as a general contractor, as a solopreneur, managing subs, managing all this stuff like that. But yeah. So I have a really good understanding. This is gonna sound arrogant, but I have a really good understanding of a lot of. I mean, pretty much everything that I touch. And it's because I nerd out on it. I rapid learn. I don't know everything. I don't know the details to the extent of an expert, but I can tell you about social media. I can tell you about systems. I can tell you about money. I just can't figure it out myself.
Isn't it funny? We can give others relationship advice, but we can't do it ourselves.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Especially in the single days.
The thing I always joke, I was like, man, if we listen to the advice we give everybody else, we'd be jacked and rich,
Yeah.
happy. So I understand it really well, and I can build it out. So we had really good systems and processes at the gym. We have a really good marketing program at the gym. We have a really good, our production, or basically our product is completely overbuilt, like for what it is. And that's how I deliver it, is what it is. But the reason I'm moving into the construction world is the money. It's purely financial, why I did that. And it's not because I want money. I do. I like it. I like nice things. But the skill set I have surpasses so many other guys in this industry. And it's not hard. Like, I answer my phone. So I built a Go High Level website during Helene really quick. I had it, and it was like, I forget it was, but one of the things was we call you back. Like, that was one of my 3 things. We show up, we call you back, we do what we say, we finish the work, or something that terrible. And the guy goes, "Oh, you mean it?" I'm like, "Yes." So like, that was like, I've got over a decade of experience. And like I said, I hit the top 1% of the industry in 4 years. Once I started focusing on it, and retired from fighting. So I retired from fighting in 2016. I was like, need to do something. So I jumped into the gym. I also had all my Army paperwork filled out again. I had to get another physical, and then the gym just kind of did what it did, so I never went in. But the skill set I have is phenomenal. Like, it's just airy. I should realistically build 13 stripes, help somebody else build a company, and just be like a fractional CEO. Like, I'm a visionary. I took the visionary integrator, the rocket fuel test. It's like 98% visionary. I'm like, I'm not integrating. But I also have the discipline to integrate. I hate it. It kills my soul, but I'm good at it. I understand that that's what it has to take. I'm willing to do the work to accomplish a mission, and the mission is sitting down writing fucking SOPs. And I think that's a big thing that separates me from a lot of people. I've been a high-level athlete my entire life. I just transferred to the business. But yeah, so that was the big reason. Was when I heard the numbers that these guys were doing in win rate, I'm like, you don't even have a fucking website. Like, your cell phone is, how? And that was a big, plus my dad being a GC was a big factor in that. But I looked at buying companies. I was looking at a plumbing company and 2 construction companies. Both deals fell through. I was like, fuck this, I'm not waiting. And I started taking my test.
Yeah. And I can see that. The vehicle that we choose is so important when it comes to the business as well. And so, yeah, it's I guess you haven't really pivoted, because obviously you still have the gym business and everything, but I can see that for sure. And I love that you're now trying to show the example and show the way through your content also. So talk to us a little bit about that. I know this is going to go on your podcast as well, but talk to us about the reasoning behind why you decided to create the example as you build up this business as well, and not just build up the business, bring in the money, and then not worry about teaching anybody anything.
My biggest regret with the gym, Road Combat Club, was I didn't document. I just, at that time, now that was 2013. That Johnny Buck was not the same as today. 2 years ago was not the same as today. And I did clothes, like unrecognizable difference. And my biggest regret was not documenting it. And because I do like helping people, that's a big part of it. We talked about my purpose. I have on top of my Facebook page, my purpose to empower, inspire, and show others how those willing to do the work can achieve more than they imagine possible by being the example. And by being the example is an important part for me, because I have spent, and I still get guilty of it, I spent so much time dragging and pushing and pulling and prodding, getting people to do the work they need to do, because I'm in love with their potential, but not what they're actually doing. And so I talk about a little bit, there's 4 things I focus on. I'm a husband, I'm an athlete, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm a leader. And those are the 4 things that I focus on. That's it. Everything else is just they fall into those buckets. And right now, entrepreneur and husband are way up there. So athletes down, and leader is probably at the bottom. But the exception to that is I'm doing this podcast. I'm doing it every week. I uploaded today instead of yesterday because of technical difficulties. And then remember, husband and entrepreneur above leader. I'm like, fuck it, dude. I'll upload it tomorrow morning. So I did. It's up. But maybe I did last. I don't know. I think I did yesterday at some point. But I really want to document this journey to give people the opportunity to see that there's a way to do this, and it's not what Instagram says at all. Like maybe my Instagram, but like you're not going to get rich quick. You're not going to make 10 G's a month tomorrow, maybe, but I do think that entrepreneurship is just getting kicked in the balls like 98% of the time. And then 2%, the win is there. It's like a fix. And and you just go again. So yeah, man, that's why I'm documenting this time. It's been an interesting journey. Even the journey of how podcast frequency and how that's going to be is completely changed. I learned that there's not enough that changes in 2 weeks to document it in construction. Construction is slow. It's 2 weeks to get a permit, like minimum. So yeah, it's been fun, man. I learned a lot. I'm not doing anything near what I expected like 2 years ago, 5 years.
That's awesome. And it's amazing what can change in just a couple of years. I mean, we think that change is something, one, we want it to happen overnight, which it doesn't happen overnight, unfortunately, unless there's some tragic thing that happens. It's the only way change happens that quickly. But the other side is that, 2 years, it seems like that is not a lot of time at all, but so much of your life can change in a matter of 2 years. But it's about being consistent. That's a lot of why I do the content that I do and everything, and actually why part of the reason behind me switching to the virtual assistant agency from coaching was that I found that I could help people out better by helping them actually get people to get them out of the day-to-day work versus trying to coach them up. And that was all in public speaking coaching, more so really helping them learn how to be a leader and communicate better. And while that's still helpful, and I like to talk about that still from time to time, it wasn't something that I found I was able to drive people. And of course, the business model there, the path to actually making more money to start to actually change my life, my family's life, and then go out and help other people as well. It wasn't as good of a vehicle as well to be able to do that. So that was a part of all that pivot as well. And so it's just really cool to watch that you're trying to create that example. And it's funny that you mentioned that everything's a lot slower than you expect as well. And one other thing I was thinking about with that too, I got a good swift kick in the nuts. I knew part of it was coming. I had 2 clients that they told me in March that they wanted to end services in April. And so I knew, okay, I was going to lose 2 clients. Well, then I ended up losing another 2 clients in April due to different things. And so we just, rather than trying to fight on that, we just said, okay, we'll just kind of part ways and everything. And so I lost 4 clients, and then I've been able to get 1 back. And luckily those clients, they were earlier in the business process. So my prices have went up since then. So I've almost gotten back about half the revenue with 1 client versus the 4 that I was dealing with, which is awesome, which is a whole other aspect of business, but that's just a part of business. Things are going to happen, and you just got to work through them and keep trudging through and know the direction you're going.
Yeah, I don't ever want to be the cheapest anything. Like, that's my goal. I don't. I tell people that, I'm not cheap. Why? Because I show up, I do my job. So I'm doing a job right now, a garage job. I am giving him a deal. It's a new process we're working on. So I want to see, I'm not going to charge him like, hey, I deliver the best product, but we've never done this product before. So we're going to see what it looks like. No, so I communicate that with him like this, but so I gave him a quote. It was like 57,000 or something like that, or I don't remember what it was. And then it was 52,000. The other guy came in under me at 47,000. I'm like, cool. And he showed me his bid, and everything was great. And my fare, fine, run it. Then the guy shows up to do the job, and it's all of a sudden $130,000 versus the 50. So what the hell happened? And then all, yada, 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 went through all that crazy nonsense. And then I showed up. Whoa. I showed back up, and we ended up doing a slightly different version. But, it was, I don't want to be the cheapest. I'll never be the cheapest, because then if you're cheap, I think the only time it's good to be the cheapest is if you are a used car salesman. I think that's about the only time, because realistically, in order to deliver a high quality product, to charge high dollar, high margins, you have to, in order to deliver a high quality product and have a great client experience, you have to charge. And that's the entire process that I'm running through right now, is making sure what we're doing is delivering. What we're doing is building the processes and systems to scale so we can do this at a higher rate.
Not being the cheapest is such an important thing. And I think that's another aspect that a lot of business owners struggle with at the beginning. They're not sure where to price at. And so I'd love to get your advice on that. I know I've looked at like competitors in the industry. I've thought about what actually makes sense for me as far as what I want to make, profits and stuff, and kind of doing a blend of the two has really kind of helped me get to where I want it to be at. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily at the top of the echelon when it comes to the prices or anything, but I know for sure I'm not at the bottom. What's kind of your way to figure out the pricing on things?
Yeah, so construction's slightly different. You can't be completely astronomical. I think with a VA service specifically, I think it's a huge scale. Like a 2x4 costs what a 2x4 costs, but I think the difference between charging $175 a square foot and $190 a square foot and $210 a square foot is, you can definitely do that as long as a couple things happen. I think one, you're like, if I'm charging you, on a higher end of a spectrum, delivery, the production has to be high. I can charge you $175, be just super average, bottom of the barrel. I can charge you $195 and then have a higher quality product, meaning how we do things, like the finish of this drywall or whatever, it needs to be a higher quality. And then if I want to hit that 210, 225 range, well, then it has to be everything. The experience coming up to that, the communication has to be better. The scheduling has to be better. Everything has to be better on that end. And then, so we're running that direction. The other part would be not just the actual product, the entire experience. So I've already fired a sub. It's awesome. He's trying to sue me and the homeowners. Good old time. But before he lost his mind, and I think what happened was realistically finances caught him, and he started grasping the straws, and he tried to make his nut on one of my jobs, and I'm not fucking letting it happen. So we did our thing, whatever. But before that, we had a guy who left a Mountain Dew bottle or some shit. He had some splatter from paint on that. I was like, hey man, I never want to see him on my job again. He goes, I'm gonna send it back out there to clean up. So like, if you're gonna be charging a premium, like the entire experience has to be good. I don't care how good of a painter you are. If your drywall looks like glass and everything's super smooth and perfect, you got like cigarette butts everywhere, it's not happening. Like, you can't charge that for that. So your alternative is charge even more and then hire somebody to come behind them and clean them. But I don't think that's gonna do.
Yeah, and then there's so much that goes into that as well, because that's a cost essentially you would have to eat up. So either you've got to, unless if you can get the sub to go back and do that work, they're now eating that cost, of course. But if you have to go back and get a different sub to fix their mistake, the first sub's mistake, now it's cost that you have to eat. And that's something that really, as I started building my team out and really building this business, I realized as well that, wow, I can't just charge, let's say, I pay the VA, $10 an hour, and I charge 15 so I can make $5 an hour off of them. It's not so, oh yeah, look at me, I'm making $5 per hour for everyone, or let's say 20, so I actually kind of start to make a good spread there. I need to actually look and see what's going to happen if the client doesn't pay me. If we have to go back and redo work because the VA messes up there. What if we have a chargeback or something because of different things that go on? And so now I can't just charge simply $1 more just to basically cover the VA's costs. I've got to charge well above that so that I can deliver a good service. First of all, I can get the right people on the team, but also for the just in cases, because things are going to happen. You're going to have bad clients as well that just suck, and they're not going to ever be happy in order to keep a good reputation. And sometimes it's better just to, okay, cool, here's your money back, whatever. You still had to pay the VA or the team member for the work they did, but you just lost out on all the money. So it's a way for you also to be able to have enough money in the bank account for the what ifs or any kind of contingencies, issues that come up as well. And so that I've done pricing as well to figure out what I need to do to make sure that I don't have those issues going into the future.
Yeah, I built that into my contracts with my sub as well. Like, hey, you owe me a 1-year warranty. Like, that's it. Like, your 1-year warranty. So if your work doesn't hold up, you come back and fix it. Will they? We don't know. Why? That's in it right now. And I'm dealing with that. Not really warranties. Poor craftsmanship that did get caught for a while. Now it's fix it. So, and then of course the weather's making it worse. So.
And of course, well, Johnny, man, this has been awesome. Just kind of chatting about business, about doing all things in business. So I appreciate it. What's one last piece of advice, and us super open, but one last piece of advice that you would give to that entrepreneur that's really trying to go from a solopreneur, or they just have a couple members on the team, to really actually getting in that CEO seat?
I think so. I'm gonna give them a tactical and then a mental type thing. So tactical, right? If you want to get out of the driver's seat and the mechanic and all that stuff, start documenting your processes. I'll use the gym because it's the easiest, and I'll give you a construction one as well. So the gym is like we have opening, we call OCD, opening, closing, and during the day checklist. So what does it look like to open your check, to open my business? So I took a video. If you have 2 people, even better. Selfie yourself, talking out loud what you're doing. So I unlock the door. I lock the door behind me. I turn on this light. I do this, I do that, and just document it. And now with AI, now you can just take it, upload it, it'll write you an SOP. I use Loom a lot for training. So do that. And then closing. So what do we do at the end of the day? And then make checklists off of that. So that's a tactical of that. With the construction side, I built out how to send an invoice, which it's all me right now. My first hire will be an admin, probably in-house, but maybe virtual. We'll figure that out when we get to that point. But yeah, so my first SOP was sending invoices. Why? Because of money. And then the mindset side of it, you only fail in entrepreneurship or life, but you only fail specifically in entrepreneurship for 2 reasons. You quit too soon and you make the same mistakes over and over again. So if you don't make the same mistake twice, you'll never fail as long as you keep going. I think I was thinking about this last night. The reason that I am so successful in pretty much anything I'm willing to do is I'm willing to fail significantly more than everybody else. I'm fine doing it public, whether I want to or not. It's going to be public. The difference is I don't quit when it happens. I want to a lot, but I don't make that same mistake twice. I think that's going to be your biggest asset in entrepreneurship and life in general.
I like that. Some great advice there. So appreciate that, Johnny. Appreciate you coming on the show. And yeah, it was great just chatting with you.
Yeah, man. Likewise, we will definitely do it again.